abandoned baby left to die in the garbage dump of Seoul, Korea, to the point that I have scars from rat bites on my body that remind me every day of the rejection and abandonment that I started life with. I've heard the story told many times by my mom, especially. A nurse came along. I really believe God sent her as my angel, found me, rescued me, and took me to a local orphanage.
Okay, so wait, you were abandoned in a dump. You have scars from rat bites on your body from that dump. This is kind of a story that we hear often from like abortion activists who would say that baby is better off aborted. What would you say to something like that?
As our book shares, every life is important to the Lord. I don't know who abandoned me. I don't know what the story is behind why I got to the garbage dump and abandoned and rejected, but I know that God's plans always supersede what man wants and that our lives are important to the Lord.
I wish more people could hear the message that she shares in this video. See, contemporary North American culture is so inundated with the self-victimization ideology. Woe is me, life is awful, all these obstacles, everything's terrible, and it spans way beyond the question of abortion. I mean, it's certainly applied to the question of abortion. People say they think abortion should be allowed if the baby's going to grow up in poverty, if the baby's going to have a disease, if the baby's going to have a disability, if the baby is going to be unwanted, then abortion should be an option. But it spans way beyond the question of abortion. We now have euthanasia. That's doctor-assisted suicide. That's not healthcare. That is suicide with a doctor's assistance, labeled as healthcare. But we have politicians who advocate for this doctor-assisted suicide in the event of poverty. That if you're poor, rather than us helping you get out of poverty, we should just funnel you towards doctor-assisted suicide. Or, not if death is imminent, but if you have a terminal illness. Rather than giving you life-affirming care and treatments, we can just euthanize you, doctor-assisted suicide. In fact, there's even efforts on the political front to make a motion that if the only thing you have is depression, if your only thing is mental illness, rather than caring for you and treating your mental illness, we can just euthanize you, doctor-assisted suicide. Now, that motion was temporarily suspended for a few years, but it's still on the table. They want to talk about it again and see if they can implement it again a few years from now. That should terrify you. That should be absolutely horrifying that there are people leading this country who genuinely believe that it's better to be dead than receive treatment for a mental illness. That's horrifying. Just so you know, ideology stems from this belief that it's better to be dead than to suffer. It's better to be dead than to suffer financially, better to be dead than to suffer physically, better to be dead than to suffer mentally. It's just better to be dead. That is the message that we're inundated with constantly from politicians, from the media, even from certain healthcare providers, astoundingly enough. That's the message that we're being fed. And that's why this woman's message, which is a countercultural message, is so desperately needed right now. See, she has a message that flies in the face of our cultural programming, flies in the face of the message that our culture is trying to shove down our throat. She has the radical notion that even if you've suffered, even if you've been rejected, even if you've been rejected by your own family, even if you were rejected at birth, your life still has value. Your life still has worth. You still deserve dignity, and you deserve to fight for your life. And that's an idea that's pretty well foreign to our country now. And in a culture where everything is all about how miserable everything is, all the depression, all the brokenness, all the obstacles, how difficult life is, how hard life is, all of these things, it's really, really refreshing for someone to turn around and say, you know what? Yes, life is hard, life is difficult, there are obstacles, you're going to have to climb up the mountain, you're going to have to slog through the mud once in a while, there's going to be suffering, but you know what? Life is still worth it. You as a person are still worth it. You don't have to be defined by your suffering. There is hope. There is joy. And that's a message that most of us don't get very often. It's certainly not in the media. Our politicians don't talk like that. Most of the time, it's all doom and gloom. So this message of hope is something that we all need. We don't hear nearly enough of. And I'm glad that she's saying it.